Welcome to the 2016, the 15th Annual Smart Growth Summit. We've been doing this quite some time now. We got an action-packed day. We'll give the preview in a minute, but before we do anything, I'd like to invite our co-chair, Vision's co-chair, Bob Fonte, to lead us in the pledge.
If I could just ask everyone to stand, please rise. Let's face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so very much, and let's have just a stand in a moment of silence for our first responders and those that serve in our military. Thank you very much. Have a great morning.
So thank you, Bob. Again, we're starting our 15th Smart Growth Summit. Before we do anything, we have to, first order of business, we have to thank our sponsors. We do have 80 sponsors this year. Again, our biggest. We keep growing. Let's give a hand to Platinum sponsor, Renaissance Downtowns, Gold sponsor, National Grid, Engel Berman, AT&T, you'll hear from them in a minute, PSEG, Lyle Azarian Properties, our silver sponsors, VHB, GPI, H2M, Simon Properties, Heartland Business Center, Mill Creek Residential, RXR, Southwest, State Farm, and Terwilliger Bartone. And then all of our bronze sponsors. Let's give a hand to all the sponsors of Smart Growth Summit. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to hear from the elected officials that are on this panel in a minute. And is Joy Brown here yet? I know she was like working out before she's like, I got time for a workout. I'm like, all right, just you know. So I do want to acknowledge some of the elected officials that are here in addition to this excellent panel. New York State Senator Phil Boyle, and we'll hear from him at lunch. Phil Boyle. Nassau Comptroller George Maragos is with us. We have Tana North Hempstead Councilwoman Dina DeGiorgio. Tana North Hempstead Councilman Peter Zuckman. We have Nassau County Village Officials Association President Warren Tackenberg. Warren. And if I'm missing anybody, which I always do, text me. 631-804-9128. If there's a VIP that I need to announce from the stage, for example, like my good friend, former mayor of Farmingdale, George Graff is here. And George, he led the Farmingdale revitalization before Ralph took it over, and we lost a few years in between, but we're back on track, and we're excited. So we got a big day. I do need to acknowledge some board members. So for Vision Long Island, if you're a board member of Vision Long Island, please stand up. If you are there anybody here? Okay, we got John Keating, we got John Durso, a whole bunch of folks. These are the folks that provide intelligence, economic fuel, guidance. They're in the community, they're our eyes and ears, and they provide leadership. And we couldn't do a summit like this without their leadership, so thank you. I also have to thank the staff. Tawan Weber, Alyssa Kyle, Chris Kyle, and John Siebert is somewhere there doing all kinds of things. Yep, shout out to the staff for just doing the work that they always do. And again, we couldn't do this summit without them. On a personal note, I have to shout out to my wife and my daughter's skipping school. I don't know how this is happening. Rain is here today. She said she wanted to see Daddy, so my wife Liz is out today. So family affair. She hears me talk all the time, so I don't know why she wants to skip school and hear me talk, but that's all right. The key is to get me to stop talking, and let's get on with the program. So I just want to give a quick message, and Joy's still not here, but we're going to hear from our sponsor in a second, so we'll pivot off me. But I did just want to frame the day. 135 speakers, 70 different projects today that we're covering. 40 different downtowns are doing transit-oriented development. 35 of them are villages, so you know there's a lot that are a lot of good work that's being done in the villages, but we're here in towns. Oops, I totally messed up, and I saw Valerie Cartwright from the town of Brookhaven. Where is Valerie? Valerie, hello, Town of Brookhaven Councilwoman. Valerie Cartwright. We've really just been doing the work. For 20 years, our organization, for 15 years with these summits, we've come together and we're producing. And people say you can't get it done, this can't happen, that can't happen, and everybody's kind of whining about different things. And I always kind of find it really silly because if you actually show up in communities and see the changes, 50 of the last 64 public hearings for transit-oriented development had more supporters than opponents. Again, who knew? But you got to be there to know that. And you guys know it, but we need to get that message out that things are happening on the local level. And I have a message in here in the packet. It was kind of a long thing, and I won't give it now, but you can read it, where the antidote to our negativity and our division on the Washington level and the state level and our regional level is what we're doing. Building up trust from the bottom up, getting things done in our community proactively, and meeting regional goals along the way, but starting with our community. And that's the recipe for success in this climate right now. So with that, let's move on to our panel as quickly as possible. But before we do that, there's a gentleman who I've had the pleasure of knowing. For the last 2 years, him and I have had some conversations on how Long Island can grow. He's somebody who cares deeply about his community. We lived in Hempstead, but he's a corporate leader with AT&T, and he stepped forward and said, you know what, Eric, I want AT&T to provide some business leadership in pulling the government entities together to really revitalize our downtowns. And this gentleman, we're going to hear an opening message from him, and he's here. I'm looking at his table, but there's Brandon. Brandon Ray is a friend. He's somebody that I'm learning to trust, and somebody I'm not going to torment you. I want to get you on our board soon. So anyway, for today, come on down, Brandon. Let's hear from Brandon Ray, AT&T.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to thank Eric Alexander, Tawan Weber, Vision Long Island staff, the board of directors for Vision Long Island, for allowing AT&T the opportunity to be here again as a sponsor of the State of Towns and Villages portion of this great Smart Growth Conference. On behalf of our chairman, Randall Stevenson, our New York State president, Marissa Shorenstein, and the hundreds of employees across Long Island and thousands of employees across the world, I bring you greetings, well wishes, and happy holidays from AT&T. Again, I'm also happy to be accompanied by AT&T's Executive Director of External and Legislative Affairs, Amy Hines Kramer. Please give her a round of applause, please. And again, for the second year in a row, AT&T is proud to serve as a sponsor of this panel. And I also want to take the time to invite you to our workshop that will start after this panel, the 21st Century Downtowns panel. So we hope that while you get to see all the panels, I would personally love for you to come to the 21st Century Downtowns panel. AT&T, like the elected officials on this panel, want to provide a quality of life for our customers and communities by giving them the latest technology, coolest devices, and now with the purchase of DirecTV, as the largest pay TV provider in the world, the most up-to-date content. The mayors and supervisors here are on the ground level interacting with other electeds, residents, the business community, doing whatever it takes to get the job done. Your job is hard work. It's very hard. Some days are great, and other days I'm sure you wish you could put them behind you. But I'm here to say that AT&T stands by our communities and our leaders through the good times and the not so good times. When we are providing AT&T Foundation contributions to local organizations within your towns and villages, for example, Bridgehampton Child Care Recreation Center in the town of Southampton, or the Youth Enrichment Services in the town of Islip, we're to focus on mentoring and high school dropout prevention. AT&T stands by you. And when we're continuing to invest to upgrade our facilities and network during one of the worst storms in the history of Long Island, Hurricane Sandy, AT&T is with you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are one Long Island, and AT&T wants to work with Vision Long Island and our leaders to make sure that we are the best Long Island. To this distinguished panel, you have an open door with AT&T. If there's any issues may arise, please contact me, because just like you, I am here to serve the region that I call home, Long Island. And in the spirit, I hope I have the same open door with you, as AT&T believes in a positive relationship leads to stronger network and easier path to solve problems. So to take my seat, let this session bring awareness not only to the challenges that our communities face each day, but to the success that our communities have made in 2016 under the leadership of these mayors and town supervisors and councilmen and women. You have a hard job, some days a selfless job, but as a lifelong resident of Long Island, I personally just want to say to everyone here, thank you. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you to Vision Long Island for this wonderful conference, and thank you everyone for being here, and let's have a great conference and a great day. Thank you very much.
Excellent message, Brandon. Thank you. And perfect timing, Joy.
I was standing over there.
Oh, I didn't know that. How are you? All right, so let's just do a quick intro, and then we'll get Joy up here, and we'll get on with the show. Our good friend, Mayor of Westbury, Peter Cavallaro, who just won some dollars from the state. How are you? Well, don't tell anybody. Okay. Another good friend, who is the Farmingdale mayor, doing a lot of revitalization. We're a little biased because we helped do the plan down there. Ralph Ekstrand. We have another friend, Reggie Spinello, Mayor of Glen Cove, and there's some exciting news that he'll probably want to share in a few minutes, so good stuff. We were out with, let's give him a hand, we were out with Tony Mackignone with about 100 of his good friends in Hicksville doing some revitalization, planning and meetings, and he's just doing a great job. So Tony Mackignone, Oyster Bay Councilman. Erin King Sweeney, Councilwoman in town of Hempstead, has been leading the charge in Baldwin, and some exciting things she may share there. So let's give it to Erin. Supervisor from the town of North Hempstead, Judy Bosworth, who has probably the most villages in her district. So she knows home rule quite well, and she's got a lot of great ideas and plans moving forward. Of course, you know Joy. Everybody knows Joy Brown. You introduced to Robert Fonte. Angie Carpenter, the town of Islip supervisor, who cares deeply about our downtowns and worked on Bay Shore revitalization. You're doing some great things moving forward. Richie Schaefer from the town of Babylon. So much happening there. Wynanch, Copeg, look forward to hearing your plans. Sean Walter, town of Riverhead. You are the man who just goes door to door to get things done. So, and Ed Romaine's joining us, town of Brookhaven supervisor. A lot of opportunities there as well. Jay Schneiderman from Southampton, made it all the way out from Southampton, canceled a couple meetings to be here. Thank you. And Mark Cuthbertson, councilman in the town of Huntington, who's been leading the charge in the village and Huntington Station for many years. So let's give a hand to Mark Cuthbertson. We've got a full house, guys. I'm going to say one last thing. I got a strange email from a friend about a meeting in Manhattan about regional planning and kind of weakening home rule and zoning. And I just wondered, I didn't get invited to the meeting. Was anyone invited to a meeting on November 17th in Manhattan to talk about weakening zoning? Anybody in this room? There's about 400 people right here and more. Anybody in this room invited? Anybody here invited to that meeting? November 17th in the city to deal with zoning, removing weakening zoning and home rule? Nobody? Okay. So, clearly, these are most important towns here on Long Island, and most of you are in the know. So it's safe to say, I'm going to ask the question again at lunch. This is the type of stuff we're trying to not have. Strange people in different places planning for us. Long Island works, and our downtowns work from the bottom up, and that's the spirit, and that's why we always start our summits with the duly elected officials in the towns and villages. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joy Brown, who is probably the most independent writer I know, and she knows how to work with everybody on Long Island. So she's been moderating this for many years, and we get a lot of excitement and ideas that get generated. So Joy, thank you for doing this again. Thank you.
Good morning. Last year I kind of dropped the ball on you guys, but I wanted to thank you all for following up with me, and just to let you know that my husband and his brand new heart stents are doing just fine. And I also, gentlemen, when the women close to you tell you things like, dude, you really shouldn't be eating that, or, you know what, sweet pea, let's go take a walk, you know, that kind of stuff, I give them a listen. We were very, very lucky. I got him to the hospital before he had the heart attack. And this is someone that I've known since I was 17 years old. So listen to the ladies, and ladies, also listen to your man. This is not anything to play with. We thought he had pneumonia. Anyway, welcome to Vision Long Island. But let me ask you, all of you guys on the panel, I'm going to go down to each side, and I'm going to have you all speak briefly, and I'm going to emphasize briefly. And you'll know how well you're doing, because if people start falling asleep, I'm going to interrupt you. Do you find it, how many of you find it easier to get these kind of things done? Some of you are new, some of you have been in office for a while. But let's say compared to 10 years ago, is it easier to get this idea of visioning and this idea of building different kinds of housing on Long Island done? How many of you would say it's easier? Right, by a show of hands. That's significant. How many of you say it's more difficult? There is, okay, so that's good. I mean, it's not great, but you know, hey. How many of you have no opinion? You're kind of on the fence about this. About the same. Right? About the same? Which I think is probably a reflection of the kind of place that Long Island is, a neighborhood of neighborhoods, so you're never going to get consensus across. And I think we're to the point where we can figure out that that's pretty much okay. So let's go down the panel. And again, not too long, guys, because when the evil eye of death comes for you, it's pretty bad. Let's start in my favorite. I live in Suffolk, and I'm polite, so I'm going to start with Nassau. Let's wander all the way down to the end to you. Introduce yourself. Tell us something special that's going on in your town.
Mayor Cavallaro from the Village of Westbury, and we are fortunate that we are this year's recipient of a $10 million DRI grant from the state of New York. Governor Cuomo came down to Westbury, I guess, about 3 months ago with this big check, which I was told I could not cash. It wasn't going to cash. But you know, it was a competitive process. Some of the mayors and other representatives on this panel also put applications in, but we were selected as the only community on Long Island to receive that grant for our downtown revitalization. So we're really in the process now of figuring out how to spend that money, what the priorities should be. But we're really excited about the prospect of being able to take our revitalization efforts to the next level, because we've been doing it for some time, but this will give us the resources, I think, to leverage and go to the next level.
That was his victory lap.
Good morning, Ralph Edstrand, Mayor, Village of Farmingdale. And if you haven't been to downtown Farmingdale lately, you're missing something. Through our visioning process that started about 11 years ago with Eric, we have revitalized our downtown. Like many of Long Island, we had many empty storefronts in our downtown. We went from 26 to 2. People are flocking into our village. We believe in transit-oriented development. We have over 200 new units constructed and rented with a 98% rental. So is it easier to do transit-oriented development, mixed-use housing now? The answer is yes.
Good morning, Reggie Spinello, Mayor of Glen Cove. We've just recently, if you've read the paper, we closed on a $1 billion redevelopment of the waterfront after 20 years. So actually, Joy, the NIMBYs, the term that people use, NIMBYs, I've changed that to bananas. and that means build absolutely nothing anywhere near anything. That's what you come up with sometimes. But the sale of this property has really recognized our shift from an industrial past to a future that's poised now for economic, cultural, and recreational growth. So Glen Cove is really starting many good things. This project will bring over 1,000 jobs, $50 million influx into the local economy. It's a cash positive event. We've put 52 acres of waterfront property back on the tax roll after 30 years. It's positive. There was no cash for any of the school, the county, or the library in the city. Everybody is cash positive from day one. So it's a great event. We're revitalizing our downtown, and there's great things happening in Glen Cove. Thank you.
Good morning, Tony McEnone, Town of Oyster Bay. Honestly, this year, there has been a lot to be proud of in Oyster Bay, but I will say I'm proud of the work we're doing on the Hicksville revitalization, working with Vision Long Island, other groups, and Councilwoman Rebecca Alessia. We're seeing some progress. We're looking forward to the Long Island Railroad third track coming in. We're redoing the train station right now. And a year ago when I sat here, I was hoping. Now I'm looking to fast track this entire project, working with my other colleagues on the town board and hopefully getting some shovels in the ground by this time next year. Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning. Erin King Sweeney from the town of Hempstead. With the leadership of Supervisor Santino in the town, we've selected developers for Grand Avenue in Baldwin. This is a project that is 18 years coming, and with the incredible support from the community in Baldwin, people like Karen Montalbano, who's here from the Baldwin Civic, we're making this happen, and I hope in a year from now we're going to have shovels in the ground. So you asked whether it's easier now. I've only been in office for 2 years, but I think we're listening to the people. There's an incredible groundswell of support and demand for a cool, hip growth that supports the young people on the South Shore of Long Island, and I want to see Baldwin lead the way.
Hi, good morning. We know that thoughtful development and how to achieve it is something that's an issue that has to cross county and political lines, and we're so fortunate that we work so well with our elected officials. And I just want to mention that I see that our New York State Senator-elect Elaine Phillips has joined us, so we say good morning to you, Elaine. So in North Hempstead, we've made some progress with affordable housing opportunities, sustainable initiatives, and incentives for our business community. We know that finding affordable housing is never an easy task. I'm pleased to report that we're providing opportunities for local residents, both seniors and those in the workforce, to live the American dream now with new workforce housing construction in Newcastle. We're using some prefab construction, and those houses are going up. They were assigned by lottery, so this is an exciting thing to see. In Manhasset, we are cleaning up a contaminated brownfield site and putting it back on the tax rolls in order to provide some much-needed affordable senior housing. Working hard to attract new businesses. One of the challenges we face, and Joy, you mentioned lots of villages. We have 31 villages in the town of North Hempstead. That's a lot of villages. We love our mayors. Thank you, Peter. But many of our downtowns actually are located in villages, so that presents a unique challenge all in itself.
Yo, Richie, you ready? Yes. Okay. And our neighbors to the east. Let's start way on the end of my home.
Okay. So yeah, there are a lot of exciting things happening in Huntington, including downtown Huntington. We've seen a number of really infill mixed-use buildings go up, and a lot more on the boards. And the key issue that we face with that, and we're going to continue to face, is parking. So we're grappling with how do we reach, the right mix in terms of the amount of parking we have? Do we need a new parking structure? So that's a good challenge to have. We're happy to have to grapple with that. Renaissance Downtown, their first major mixed-use building is going to go up, and they're going to start construction in the spring in a very prominent location in Huntington Station by the railroad station. And I think the good news for us is the mixed-use buildings that are going up are a really good model for other hamlet areas we have in the town. Cold Spring Harbor, East Northport, Greenlawn are terrific downtown areas as well. And I think as developers see the success of these mixed-use buildings, they're going to look to that as a model from downtown Huntington to the rest of the hamlets. And I would just close on, it's easier nowadays, I think, to approve not only the mega project with housing, but the smaller projects, because school population is really no longer an issue. If a school board member or a community member comes to us and says, it's going to hurt the schools, it's going to overpopulate the schools, they really don't have any credibility because we're closing schools at this point. And that really, I think, helps turn the tide in terms of trying to build quality residential housing at a greater density than we might have done otherwise in the past.
Good morning, everybody. Jay Schneiderman, Supervisor, Town of Southampton. Exciting things going on in Southampton. And yeah, it is, besides all the dead fish, yes, thank you, Sean, for reminding me. It is a challenging area to, development often is, a four-letter word out there. But, environment usually is first, and trying to educate the public that you can develop in a sustainable fashion, and the understanding of a local economy, and this transit-oriented, reducing some of the vehicle traffic, et cetera, and handling the septic waste in a responsible fashion. I think we're making pretty good strides. The really big project, which Renaissance Downtown is contracted with the town as our master developer in the Riverside area. And they're doing about 2,000 units of housing, 2,000 units, half of which will be affordable. Now, can you imagine proposing that out on the East End and ending up with a room with a standing ovation at the end? That actually happened. That they did so much groundwork, working really literally going door to door and building community support. So it is hard to do, but it can be done. Insidious Barrios is here, I see from Renaissance, and they really did so much groundwork to make that happen. There's also about 250,000 square feet of commercial development associated with that. And if you don't know where Riverside is, it's right across the Peconic River from Riverhead. And also working with Riverhead on some of the sanitary components there. And with the county on redoing the circle in that area, because it really isn't, we have some traffic issues as well, and we've got a major project with Suffolk County to improve that circle. Hampton Bays is another area where we're trying to revitalize the downtown. It's a great area, lots of water, really a kind of a unique place, and we're working with a group called Historical Concepts, doing a form-based code for the Hampton Bays area. And we just opened a brand new kind of like downtown Central Park in Hampton Bays, and we're connecting it to our downtown. And it's one of the, out in my area, one of the few areas where you have a train station right in the heart of a downtown. It's really a perfect place, and it's very exciting. I could talk a lot more, but I'll just say one last thing, is we're working with the Long Island Railroad too, because we need to get a morning train. We have, when I was driving here, so much traffic heading east, trying to, all the workforce that is coming out to the East End, and we really need to have a better rail system servicing the commuter needs of the East End. But I've been working with the Long Island Railroad on that, and I'm hopeful. Okay, thank you.
Sean?
So, Joy, you look a little bored, so I want to just call you out on one of your editorials that you wrote about the Suffolk County Legislature. So maybe we could talk about that later with the home rule.
Now, I'm ready to go down any.
So let's. I just wanted to liven
I'm
it up.
sorry, editorials. I'm not on the editorial board. You can talk to me about anything with my name on it.
There you go.
Okay.
Anyway, Sean Walter, Town of Riverhead. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on in the Town of Riverhead. I'm going to list a couple of things, and I'm going to list a couple of the challenges. Michael Butler is doing a brand new building, bought the old West Marine building. He's going to make an open food market. You got Peconic Crossing going to build 45 units of workforce housing this year coming up. We're going to build our second hotel in the Preston House in downtown Riverhead. That's 20 units tied to a turn-of-the-century building. David Gallo, Georgia Green, is building 117 apartments, hopefully workforce housing and market rate. And I'm hoping some of that construction will come online next year. You've got Rob Munchnick doing another project right next door to that could be upwards of 130, 145 units. So we've got a lot of stuff happening without the transit. We have we have transit-oriented development without any trains. We're trying to figure out how to get our workforce to Southampton and East Hampton. But the exciting thing about it, and what I want to leave you with in Riverhead, is what's going on at Calverton Airport. Illuminati Aerospace, in the next 6 months, we believe is going to launch the first aircraft that's been manufactured in Calverton in 20 years. Wow. If they are successful in what they're doing, the 2,000 units that you're trying to build, the 500 units we're going to build, they're going to be full, and we're going to have some high-tech workforce back in Riverhead again.
I'm sorry, so you're telling me aerospace is coming back?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Joy,
Got that one, Richie.
Joy, I will not call you out. I know better. But Rich Schaefer, supervisor of the town of Babylon, and good morning to everybody. Let me just say, we're, as Eric mentioned, we are pretty busy in Babylon. As you know, Wyandanch Rising, has completed its first phase, and in fact, we're opening the ice skating rink. Anybody interested in ice skating will be open tomorrow for the first skaters, and we'll have the official grand opening next Saturday when the county executive returns from his visit to Pearl Harbor. But that is filled out in terms of the residential component. The commercial component is going well. We've gotten several major tenants who've signed up to lease the property there, and we expect to start construction on the new train station in 2017. So all of that going well. Russ Albany's, I can't say enough about, is already starting phase 2, which is an additional 200 and something units of rental housing, which will be just to the north of the current Wyandanch Rising project on Straight Path. And then you just go through our Babylon line and you see Copeg Conifer, a national housing organization, is in the middle of construction of 91 units at the Copeg train station. And Tritech, which we are so glad to have them coming to Babylon. They did a tremendous job out in the village of Patchogue. They've got a proposal on the board right now that's going through the planning process in the village of Lindenhurst, which we are working cooperatively with through our industrial development agency to provide the tax abatements necessary to make the project a success. That's probably going to be a little over 200 residential units right at the Lindenhurst train station, and we're working now cooperatively with Amityville Village, and I use the word cooperatively as a key word, that we're working together, levels of government working together. We've got the Industrial Development Agency that can provide the village the necessary tools they need to use to make a deal with the developer to come in. And so Amityville Village is now just in the exploration phase of, and they're meeting with Renaissance, they're meeting with Tritech to decide who would be a developer of a project at the Amityville train station. So there's a lot going on. I raised my hand to say it was easier because I've been doing this for a while, since 1988. And even when I came back as town supervisor, I was kind of shocked because the first proposal that came out, I was expecting the pitchforks and the flaming arrows, and the town board looked at me and they said, "What are you so anxious about?" I said, "Well, I'm waiting to get our you-know-what's handed to us and literally for people asking questions, reasonableness. And I think the key was because Steve, while he was supervisor, had set in motion a plan. The way we do it is they created a vision plan for the particular hamlet or area that was sought to be developed or redeveloped. All the community had a buy-in. People participated. It did take a couple of years, but all of that legwork, and I think it's the legwork that Jay and Mark and Sean have referred to, all that spade work that was done in the community in order to get everybody's questions answered, everybody's fears put to rest, helped now, once the vision plan has been approved by the town board, it's a roadmap for how to do the redevelopment. So I think we have a great plan in the way we do it in Babylon, and it's worked well with our various levels of government. And the support, I can't stress enough, the support that we've gotten from the county, as well as the state. I see our state senator, Phil Boyle, is in the audience. The support that we've gotten from our state representatives to get the necessary funds we need to pull off the development has been monumental. So we appreciate that as well.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Carpenter.
Good morning, Joy. Good to see you. I'm Angie Carpenter, Supervisor of the Town of Islip, and, you know, Eric mentioned Bay Shore, and it's so special to me because we have 17 hamlets in the Town of Islip, but when I started my run through government, it was as a county legislator, and part of the focus was Bay Shore, and that, at that time, we're talking 93, it was abysmal. The vacancy rate was through the roof. Nobody was going there. In fact, when you talk about transformative things happening, the reuse of a county building, and that was the mini center in downtown Bay Shore, to Toro School of Health Sciences, really helped set the wheels in motion. And a very, very engaged community. And to this day, the Bay Shore Chamber of Commerce and BID will bring out 120 people to a chamber meeting in the evening where you don't normally see that. There's a lot of, it's a very robust market for 3 to 5 story apartment and mixed use buildings. One just opened recently with about 30, 40 units with an incredible restaurant downstairs, Salt and Barrel that everybody is flocking to. The restaurants in the downtown, we're kind of like the Huntington of the South Shore now in Bay Shore, and that, you know, kind of symbiotic between the retail and a lot of restaurants really has made the difference in Bay Shore. Brentwood, we finally are seeing some movement on the project at Pilgrim State. The planning board approved the first phase of the project, and it has gone to the county. And from what I've been told, the County Planning Commission will be hearing that application on January 4th. So there's been a lot of interest in that. The first phase that they did approve is for 453 acres and 15.5 million square feet of mixed use. When we talk about transit-oriented development, I feel like we're really very poised in the town of Islip because not only do we have the railroad stations, we have ferries, and we have an airport. And we've gotten a lot of interest in our airport, and that certainly has been a generator for projects coming in to the various hamlets in the town of Islip.
You guys are looking a little, go ahead. You're looking a little fidgety, so let's have some fun. Let's embarrass the town supervisor. It's Mr. Romaine's birthday. Yesterday. I'm tired. So how old are you?
You don't want to ask.
So we're going to let you leave.
I celebrated at a town board meeting.
There you go.
Classic. Well, Brookhaven, as everyone knows, is the largest town in the state by size. We have 45 hamlets and 500,000 people. And I could probably spend half a morning talking about some of the projects that are going on in Brookhaven, but I'll talk about some of them. We finished earlier this year Wind Quorum, which was a major affordable housing initiative undertaken by CDC in the Quorum area. We finished a veterans affordable housing in Ronkonkoma, and we're about to dedicate another one in Middle Island. We obviously work through our IDA with the Village of Patchogue and all of their efforts to revitalize that village. One of the key components was the sale of the John J. Foley Nursing Home to Brookhaven Hospital. They will move out of Patchogue, and in its place, a hotel may rise, and the village is looking to do that. The Village of Port Jefferson has been extremely active, both in Lower Port and Upper Port. Upper Port is by the train station, in building multifamily units, and the town of Brookhaven has approved a plan to build 200 multifamily units just south of there in Port Jefferson Station. So there's a number of things happening. In the first quarter, we thought it would happen sooner. We will be breaking ground for Ronkonkoma Hub. The one thing I would say, and I could talk about all the other projects, Heatherwood is adding somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 units in the Center Moriches and Mattaville area on both sides of Sunrise Highway. So there's a number of developments, and I could list them all. But what I would say about this is the lack of infrastructure investment is telling. We're in a town where we deal with rail technology of the 19th century. Electric stops at Babylon on the South Branch. It stops at Ronkonkoma, which is right at our western border in the Middle Branch, and stops in Huntington, doesn't even make Brookhaven. We have the largest state university in the state university system at Stony Brook, and it has no electrification, no rail transportation. We need to really, if we're going to talk about housing, we need to talk about infrastructure, and particularly rail infrastructure. That's huge. Public transportation needs a shot in the arm. I'm sorry for the county's fiscal problems because I thought Steve Malone, when he unveiled Connect Suffolk, with a bus transportation connecting to rail was really good, and then because of fiscal concerns, he had to cut bus routes, and I felt sorry for that. That's something that really has to be looked at. I would also say, tangentially, someone should be talking about a regional solid waste issue, because we haven't talked about that. Our landfill, which is one of the last operating landfills, is going to close. It's a matter of a few years at most. Is the fate of Long Island to ship all of its garbage by truck upstate? Don't we have better ideas? So we really need possibly the DEC, certainly the towns, to step up and talk about a regional solid waste program. So I just throw those ideas out. Obviously, as town supervisor, I'm very interested in the future of not only Brookhaven Town, but all of the island. And we want to work cooperatively with our colleagues in government at all levels. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you. Let me start out by going right back to you, though. I'm a boomerang right back.